Hello, everybody. Okay, I think I can see some hellos in the chat now. Right, so welcome to our Teacher Refresh course. Today we're going to be talking about discussion activities and games for Cambridge B1 and B2 speaking exams. So as usual, you will receive a certificate of participation and a webinar handout in the next few days. If you don't receive it, please email us at formazione@mlaworld.com. And please don't worry and take pictures of the slides because all the information in the slides will be in the handout along with worksheets that you can use in your classes. So, training speaking skills, in particular for students who want to succeed in the Cambridge PET B1 and first B2 exams, they can be rather challenging and they often find it difficult to interact fluently in speaking part 3. So here we are to explore what we can do about it. So by the end of this session, teachers will be better able to foster authentic interaction among students by using a game-based approach to speaking. And also, we hope that you will be able to adapt material, exam material, to create a communicative class and to help students get better results. Let me check the chat. I can see that you're all very active there. Fantastic. This is brilliant. Great. Okay, so any questions, please pop them in the chat. I'll be looking at it. So, what is speaking part 3? Now, this is what we call the collaborative task. So, candidates do this part in pairs of twos, in pairs of threes, and generally two, okay, pair, and they have to interact to succeed. So they are expected to work as a team. That's why it's called a collaborative task. And it's usually a good idea to ask students what happens in an authentic discussion, because that's what's expected, okay? So I think to start a class when you're going to teach this, it's quite nice to ask them. So you are supposed to talk as if you were in a regular or authentic conversation in English, which is quite challenging, isn't it? So let's start by asking them, so what happens in an authentic discussion with a friend in their own language? Because there are common features. So what happens is that they listen to each other. So they need to listen to their partner. They take turns to speak. They don't speak over the other person. Okay. And they show interest in what the other is saying. They comment on it and they agree or disagree, but they basically show that they are listening actively. So they comment, oh, really? Oh, that's right. Oh, yes, I had the same. That sort of thing. And if they disagree, they try a little to persuade them to change their idea. Okay, so yeah, I'm not quite sure about that. So that's what happens generally in a conversation. Now, let me check the chat. Lovely. Hello, welcome, welcome. So this is part 3 for pets, B1. So they give you some pictures. There are no captions. There is no writing. So in this part of the test, you're going to talk about something together for about 2 minutes. I'm going to describe a situation to you. And then they tell them. So in this case, a girl is going on a long bus journey with her family to visit some relatives. She can take one thing with her on the bus for entertainment during the journey. And here are some things she could take with her. Now they have to decide what they would take and what they think she would take. Okay. In the B2 exam, in the first certificate, it's slightly different. Okay, so it will be something like, now I'd like you to talk about something together for about 2 minutes. Again, 3 minutes for groups of 3. They always get a little bit of extra time. Imagine that a large department store is offering students the opportunity of doing some work experience there. Here are different jobs and a question for you to discuss. First, you have some time to look at the task. So they give them time, they look at the task. Now, talk to each other about what skills the students might learn by doing these jobs. And after 2 minutes, they get an extra minute for the decision making process. So now you have about a minute to decide which two jobs would give the most valuable experience for the future. So this is what the task looks like. Okay. Here they don't get pictures, so they're also testing their vocabulary, really. Okay. Now, what can we do to prepare students to do this part fluently, to do it with confidence, to do it naturally? Because that's actually what Cambridge examiners are looking out for: authentic language, authentic communication, authentic interaction. So I'm going to give you some tips. This is all in the handout, remember? Okay, so this is something I do first. So basically, I don't give them the top part. I always start by giving them an example. Okay, so I tell them functional language chunks they can use. Okay, so I just give them the table, ending your turn, interrupting, agreeing, disagreeing politely. And I ask them to collaborate together and see if they remember any sentences. If you are dealing with lower level learners, then I'll give them these top parts from the very beginning. So these are different things, different sentences, different functional language they can use to introduce the function of the meaning they want to convey. Okay, so obviously the first one is very clear. I agree with you. Now, ending your turn. Right. So, which one would you use? Let us know in the chat. Or, for example, for interrupting, it's very clear. Sorry to interrupt, but what happens with this is that students buy a little bit of time. They buy thinking time. They use this sentence and then they produce the language. Okay, anybody in the chat? Okay, no problem. For B2, chunks need to be a little bit longer. You know, these sentences need to be a little bit more sophisticated. And I always take this opportunity. I do exactly the same thing as I do in my B1 classes, because I'm going to give them this so then I can play games with it as well. But I'm going to give them this to buy time. With B2 classes, I think this is an excellent opportunity to teach pronunciation because intonation is sometimes quite hard and that makes a really good impression in the speaking exam. And generally, to all native speakers, when a student goes, that might be true, but I'm not, then we know that they are just memorizing a sentence. But if they say, that might be true, but I'm not sure I agree with you, if we can actually teach that intonation pattern and then help them. I'm afraid I don't see it the same way. I'm afraid I don't see it the same way. So they don't pronounce each and every word. Do you teach any of these introductory sentences? Please let me know in the chat. Okay, so these are the solutions in case you were wondering. Okay, this is all in your worksheets. So basically, you don't even need to go over these answers with them. You can basically give them the key and then they will know whether they've done it right or not. Okay. Okay, so now we've taught them this language. They do have it. Let's play a conversational game. If we turn this memorizing process into a game, then they're more likely to remember it. Yes, you do. Fantastic. I can see a few people interacting in the chat. Fabulous. Right. So I'm going to tell you about this functional language card game that I've played with my students over the years. So I basically prepare a list of topics that students will be able to talk about. You could use topics from the exam. I mean, the topics are very general. Traveling, environment, the media, loads of different topics, okay? And then make copies of the cutouts to create a pack of cards. In the handout, I've given you the cutouts, so we will have these sentences in cards, okay? Split the class into teams of 4, so they're going to be grouped in 4, and they're going to have to talk about the team in 4. Each team will get a pack of 20 cards, okay? So these are 20 sentences. And they shuffle them, and then they put them facing down in front of them, in the middle, okay? Now, once the conversation starts, and I generally time them, you can give them a bit longer, a little bit less. I generally keep these going for quite a while because it's good practice. And the only thing I do is change topic. Okay. So once the conversation starts, they pick up a card and contribute to the conversation, playing that linguistic function. And they need to use a sentence and intonation patterns. Otherwise, they cannot actually use the card. Okay? They must continue speaking for 3 minutes. Okay? And you can make it 5 if it's challenging. I mean, you can vary this. Okay? And the first student to get rid of all the cards wins the game. And then you change the topic. Okay? If it's getting too old, you can always restart the game. Okay? Change the topic, do it again, or give them a few topics during the 3 minutes. Assessment. So the assessment, they do it with each other. Okay, so they will say whether it is acceptable or not. So they need to take time, actually, because they can see that the sentence might not be correct. They may not accept it, so the students cannot get rid of the card. So if a student says it confidently and get rid of the card, that's when it's okay. But the other students are controlling that. If that's what you mean, Gaetano. So the card is end your turn, interrupt, agree, or disagree politely. So these are the cards, and then you basically have to use one of the sentences. Okay, now this is another game. Okay, sorry, this is not working. Lovely. Again, prepare a list of topics that students will be able to talk about. So in the previous game, the cards only gave them the function and they had to use one sentence and they cannot repeat one of these sentences. Here, you can. You are supposed to, well, I mean, the dynamic is that you use the cutouts, okay, and create a pack of the cards. Again, prepare a list of topics and teams of 4. So each team will get a pack of 20 cards. They shuffle them and they deal them. So they are forced to use these specific sentences. Same thing again. Okay, so first they understand what sentences play the function, and here they need to actually use these specific sentence. This is quite good to drill intonation patterns. I'm afraid I don't see it the same way. They might want to avoid these ones, but after they've repeated it many times, that's when they become more confident at producing them, at pronouncing them, the intonation patterns. It's about them gaining confidence and becoming used to it. Okay? Now, other games you can play, because the other one, this is what we would call controlled practice. Okay? This is very controlled. They do have the function. They have to produce sentences they've learned. We've given them the sentences previously. Okay, this is controlled, and it's just a matter of practice, 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 so that they become confident. Now, for this one, you can choose a conversation topic. For example, clothes, shopping, environment, sports, daily life, habits, health. Okay. And these are the topics that are involved in Cambridge exams. Okay. And then you can set up mini debates. Which is better? So you write pairs of words, and the students need to learn for every topic on the board and give students about 2 minutes to discuss each pair before crossing them out and moving to the next pair. You could also do this as a vocabulary revision. Okay? So essentially, you give them the mini debates, love or money, cars or trains, the city, the countryside, team sports, individual sports, okay? And once you give them 2 minutes to discuss love, money, cars and trains, city versus the countryside, team sports versus individual sports. Okay, you can even make it more fun by adding common topics that are not related to exams, so they are able to keep the conversation going. Cats versus dogs, vampires versus werewolves, summer versus winter, pop music versus reggaeton or trap. That's quite a popular one. They love that one. Now you need to collect topics, okay? So you can get all the class to write environmental issues or sport items to put them in a box, okay? And this is really interesting because it activates their vocabulary again. So basically, they will put all this vocabulary that they know in a box, okay? And every student picks up one piece of paper randomly from the box. In pairs, they discuss pros and cons, which one is better, etc. Okay? The thing is, sometimes we run out of topics for them to talk about, and it's much better to get them involved in that process. And what happens here is that it could be fun because it will generate rather random discussions, okay, or a very useful, interesting conversation, or simply the use and practice of the formulaic expressions, and a fun, surrealistic debate that will make everyone laugh. Say, for example, domestic appliances. Roomba versus an iron. What's best? I mean, do they know anything about this? Probably not, but they will have to use the expressions to buy time. So it's going to force them to use the expressions. And they think it's quite funny because it doesn't make much sense, which is kind of the spirit of it, to make it fun, to make it surrealistic, so they can actually get into it. Now, you can make it competitive. You can turn it into a proper game by assigning opinions. Student A must argue that city living is better, while B argues that they favor the countryside. Okay? And then a third student acting as a referee. The student will monitor the use of the expressions and decide the winner of each debate. Okay? Basically, are you repeating the same argument? Are you repeating the same sentence? Have you run out of sentences? Are you hesitating? That's what the referee will estimate. Okay, the debate has been won by A or B. And then take turns and they rotate with different topics. They might be arguing against their real opinion. So after they have debated a few different topics, just get feedback and find out the students' real opinions. Because sometimes they just have to defend something they're not interested in, which is quite interesting because that's when they can expect what the other person may say. And then that means they're paying attention to each other as well, which is very important. Okay, now I think it's very important to change speaking part 3 tasks with teenager topics. The exam conversations in general are very unnatural, so why not make them even more unreal? This would help our students understand that they don't have to be interested in the topic to perform well. Sometimes students are not interested in sports, sometimes students are not interested in shopping. It can happen. So then we're just going to give them different topics to become familiar. Now, this is one of my favorites. I just give them a situation. So I'm going to give them a scenario that's completely different, but they will still practice this language, they will still get confident when discussing a topic. So, there is a zombie outbreak in your area, and you want to survive and know that it's always best to be a team, 3 or 4. But this also means you have to make difficult decisions. This is the introduction I give them. So I put them in 3s or 4s, and I told them there's a zombie outbreak. Now, you found 12 objects in the building, but you can only choose 6 objects to take with you. And I give them 10 minutes to make a decision together. So we put them in 3s or 4s. I prefer 4s, to be honest, because I'm then going to change them, change pairs, move them around. And this is something that they might get into. So this is also in your handouts, okay? These are the objects, okay? They get 12. Look at them. They're exemplified there so they can think about it. And that's why I give them 10 minutes to decide on the first 6 objects, okay? Now, during the game, students will be in one team for the first 10 minutes, okay? And then after that, I'm going to split them into different groups and get them to decide again. Because what they have decided at the beginning might be completely different if they are involved in a different team. So I'm going to be swapping them around. Once they've decided in another group, I will get the students to decide 2 objects from the 6, the initial 6, okay? So we start with 12 objects, okay? From these, in the first group, they decide on 6. Then I move them to another group, and they again decide on 6. And after they've done that, they need to choose only 2. And this time, you need to stick to Cambridge exam timing. Okay, how long do they get? 3 minutes? 2 minutes? Just make sure you give them the timing. 3 minutes in pairs, 4 minutes in groups of 3. 6 minutes if they're practicing in groups of 4. Now, the game, while you're doing this for 10 minutes or 3 minutes. If a student is quiet for far too long, they turn into zombies. So other students will give them a zombie card. These are all in your handouts. Okay, and they turn into zombies, which means they're out. They cannot play anymore. If a student doesn't use conversational expressions to talk, they get a zombie card. So just make sure that your students have some cards to give to the other students. Okay? When a student gets 3 zombie cards from their peers, they've officially become zombies, and that's when they're out of the game. Okay? So we're going to give them 3 opportunities. So you're very quiet, someone gives the card. Okay? If they don't use conversational expressions to talk, they get a zombie card. And then when they get the third one, that's when they're out of the game. It gets very competitive and it truly helps getting them involved. What else? You could do this yourself. You could go around with the cards yourself and then give them the card, or you could ask the students to do it. I mean, that's my favorite way of doing it, but sometimes, I don't know about you, sometimes my students are too soft on each other. Sometimes they get very competitive though, and they just keep giving cards. So sometimes I just go around and give them the card myself while I'm monitoring. Okay, so we've come to an end. I hope this is very clear. Okay, please do let me know if you have any questions in the chat and whether you understood how to set up the games. So, in conclusion, basically, we can use games as controlled practice for students to practice useful expressions and help them use them more naturally in conversations later. Let's remember that that's what Cambridge is expecting in the end. They're expecting them to use language to make a point, to sound more natural at the same time. You will get them in the handout, Milena. Don't worry about it. It's all in the handout that you will receive. And then you'll see all the objects and you can use these tasks, these games in your next class. No problem at all. Everything is ready for you. Oh, okay. So you want to see them again. Let me go back super quickly. Okay. So these are the objects. Okay. Again, these objects and the picture is ready for you to print and distribute among your students. Now, so let's try and make it natural and offer them this control practice. Teaching conversational language in free communicative activities is more efficient by adding specific language and can work even better if there is a competition. Okay, so I think when there are free communicative activities, you can add things. Maybe it's not just what they need to produce, but they are forced to produce just some bits here and there. And if you add the element of a competition, generally it serves the purpose better. And then understanding the authentic use of introductory sentences in English is easier if we choose a relevant topic. Okay, so relevant topic or surrealistic topic is entirely up to you. But make sure that after you've used the games, you've made it completely crazy for them to engage with it, you give them a relevant topic to check that they can actually use these sentences and they feel more confident with it. And practicing the language that is expected in speaking exams, in games, and fun activities. It just makes it easier for students to use this language then in the exam. It will come more naturally from them. Okay, so please do let us know if you have any suggestions for any upcoming webinars. We have many ideas for future webinars, but we always welcome your ideas. And if you have some ideas for future sessions, please write them in the chat now and I'll take a note of them. I hope this has been helpful and that you have some material that you can use and try out with your students to make your lessons a little bit more gamey, a little bit more engaging. I think one can never have enough material and games to exploit. I think we've done a few about phrasal verbs, Katerina. I think it might be a good idea to check our YouTube channel. We have all of our webinars are posted there. So maybe you can take a look at that. And we will surely be running another one on idioms and phrasal verbs. We've done a few. Please do check the YouTube channel. So thank you. Thanks again for your attention. You will receive your certificate of participation via email soon. And please contact us at formazione@mlaworld.com if you don't receive it in the next week. And there is a handout containing all the worksheets and activities. So as well as useful links, okay? And it will be in the email with your certificate. If you don't receive it, please do let us know. And then our next webinar next Thursday, 5th of December, using ChatGPT for EFL. Prompt optimization. I think that's quite useful because we're all using it these days, but how can we ask ChatGPT what we want from it? Okay. Right. Thank you very much, everybody. And we hope you will join us again next week. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.